do you do a drink? What do you drink these days? Always Yorkshire Gold or just straight Yorkshire tea. Why? Well, I like the flavour of it. It's a good strong cup of tea, but the Gold particularly, and I'm always getting the mickey taken out of me about it because we get 2 really good strong cups of tea out of 1 tea bag. My son always says to me, you're going to hang them on the line and get a 3rd or 4th cup out of them.
To be really boring, it's got to be the ass out, your breakfast tea. That cures everything. Usually about 6 cups a day. Last thing before I go to sleep, with my lunch, my breakfast, everything. I'll do everything. I do love tea, so yeah.
We've got one at home that we quite like, haven't we? But that's not a type of tea, that's a make, isn't it? It's a...
Well, I'm not sure I'm supposed to say what it is, really. It's Prince Charles's tea, and it was on special offer in Waitrose.
Any sort of tea, because the tablets I take, they send me to sleep, the tea keeps me awake.
Tea is without milk. Both tea is without milk and sugars. Proper tea, this tea doesn't get bitter, never ever. Proper tea doesn't get bitter.
What's my favorite tea? I don't have one. I tried everything, you know, like one by one. It just depends how you feel, to be honest with you. What time of the day, what time of the day, and how you feel.
Well, I used to be drinking a lot of fruit teas and green teas because I felt it was healthier, but I've just reverted to good old PG tips.
I do like a couple of sugars in there, but not big ones. But I do like a sugar, yeah.
Earl Grey, no milk and a slice of lemon. And that's, I can actually say I enjoy that tea. The rest, actually, I'm not fussed.
I only have 1 cup of tea a day. So, yeah, I will have my cup of tea here watching the birds. Normally the blue tits come in a little gang. Not crazy gang. The crazy gang are the long-tailed tits. They all come down in a big gang.
And what do you think makes tea so British or English?
The Raj or something like that, could it be?
Yeah.
You know,
I don't know the answer,
tea
so
growers.
Yeah.
You know, we were there, we and probably took it over like we do everything, and maybe it was that.
Well, I think it harks back to our days of the Raj, doesn't it, in India? I mean, they were the biggest tea producing nation in the world at the time, and it was obviously very convenient for our forefathers out in India to drink tea with a slice of lemon.
Well, it's to do with the Raj. Yeah, the Indian link. Of course, we've made it English by adding milk and sugar. And absorbing it into our culture, really.
Probably because it's sort of, I don't know why, probably because it's just one of those things that's iconic to us alone, and you don't really get it anywhere else. It sounds nice, and I've been to a few places in the world where I've tried tea there, and it just isn't the same sort of thing. I mean, tea's great in other places, but here it's just got that thing about it where it's like, yeah, you know you're in Britain, that kind of thing. Yeah.
It's just something that the British have always have always done.
And our parents drank tea, and so did we when we were younger.
We did. When we were younger, we hardly ever drank coffee, and we drank tea. That's changed a bit, hasn't it, as the years have gone
every
by.
time the adverts came on, we rushed out to make a pot of tea.
Why do you think it's so popular then?
I think it's like alcohol. If you're brought up on it, you're going to like it.
Well, it's a drug really, I suppose, isn't it? I don't think we realise it, but I think when you're a bit stressed, there's nothing like a good cup of tea.
It's just one of those things I have to have every day. If it's not in the cupboard, it's more of a necessity than anything else in my house, so yeah.
I think most of all people associate it with feet up, you know, a bit of me time, a bit of spoiling, I'll have a nice cup of tea.
Caffeine is a drug. There's caffeine in tea. There's more caffeine in tea than in coffee.
What's your fondest memory of drinking tea?
5 years back, when I started in this market, I have found after 4 days, on the street. That ones. That is my memory.
Well, I'm a uni student and I was stuck at uni because we were snowed in, and an out of service bus came along, let us on to take us home, but he stopped halfway, sort of a mile away from my house, so we had to all disgorge this bus then, and I walked home in snow about this deep, and I was sopping and freezing cold, and the first thing I did when I came in was put the kettle on, and that's probably my favourite tea drinking memory.
Second memory, yes, the tea box. 3 years back, I found it on the street near the garage. 8 o'clock in the night, dark night, rain there, that time, it's winter. I found it under the bridge. I took it, my shoulder, and bring it back here. Memory.
On a Sunday, my father would have his bath, and then at a certain time he would knock on the floor, and it was time for my mother to put the kettle on. 4 o'clock, he would come down and he would have 3 cups of tea and thoroughly enjoy them. The first one would be absolutely scalding, and he would pour from the cup into his saucer because he was thirsty for it, and sup it up. Not in an uncouth way, it was quite genteel, but we used to look at him and think, whatever next? Then he would finish that cup of tea, still scalding. Then he would have a second cup, which was hot, and drink it from the cup. And then he would have a third cup, which to any other mortal would probably be at the right heat. But he thoroughly enjoyed doing it that way. He thoroughly enjoyed his tea then. And that's my main memory, really, of tea drinking.
Well, I suppose one that's fairly strong now I think about it, memory, is when I was at university and a friend and I used to go to Carmichael's, so Ian Carmichael's department store, very posh, especially for Hull, and there was a tea room up there which was very posh, and this is in the late 70s, and we used to order a pot of tea for 2, and that was a china pot and it stayed hot, and we felt ever so self-conscious, but it's a nice memory of tea and little china cups. Yeah, so that would be it.
Tea bags these days, we don't use ordinary tea like we used to. You warm the pot first, then you get a good spin around. Put your tea bags in, and I always make sure the water's boiling again before I put the water on top of the tea. There we are.
A very precise business, tea making, isn't it?
Oh yes. Tea making is a very precise business. You've got to put enough water in without drowning the tea bags. But as I say, they normally say with tea bags, 1 for each person, and then 1 for the pot. But I find that 3 tea bags in a teapot that size, and you fill it with water, it's enough for 4 cups of tea, and it's quite strong enough. And I like builder's tea, which is quite strong. And we give this a good stir. And that should be quite nice now, ready to pour, having settled in there for 2 or 3 minutes. There we are, there's a nice brown cup of tea. I poured it that way by putting half the amount in the cups first and going round all 4 cups, and then go back the opposite way, because normally the first that's poured out is the weakest. By doing it that way, it should even it all up. And there you are.